Hey guys, this is KSP with Tape, and today you joined me with episode 32 of Solar Civilization, and we are with the Ocelot 2 in orbit of Eve. This is our second probe to drop into the Eve atmosphere, and I'm hoping to get it into the ocean, so that I can get new science from the ocean, because Eve has two biomes, I believe, land and ocean, because, well, I haven't fully done biomes on planets yet, but Eve's nice because it has at least two. I think Duna might have two for the ice caps. Anyway, this will speed into 4 times time accelerate relatively soon because we have seen a probe descent before and it is a lot of just kind of orbiting. I want to get a little higher than 40 kilometers because, yeah, more like 50, I think, because I know exactly where want to be coming down, and I have planned it quite a bit. So yeah, we just want to fly kind of over that big continent and into the ocean on the other side of the planet. Eve is quite well divided into just quite a large ocean, quite a large land mass, and then a few little islands in between. Luckily, this one doesn't flip out and burn the parachute off because it doesn't have the large antenna. Because I put that on the Kepler spacecraft so that I could transmit data from the spacecraft. Um, Sadly, this one, because it doesn't lose a parachute, this one will actually land quite well. So it'll actually land on those landing struts, but because it's landing in water, it doesn't really need it. And the other one fell over because it didn't land. It only landed on one parachute. So my landing structure thing was kind of pointless, which kind of sucks. I put a lot of no effort into that. Anyway, I need to get some science from the lower atmosphere because I've got it from the higher atmosphere and on land. So this is obviously the lower atmosphere and the, well, not water, the well, whatever this is, I don't know, what is Eve's atmosphere made out of? I've heard lots of things. I've heard rocket fuel, I've heard like nitrogen, I've heard some kind of methane composite, maybe monomethyl hydrazine. I had no idea why, but it's cool words. Why? Um, anyway, we're about to splash down in the ocean of whatever it's made out of, and find out what it's made out of. But for science reasons, I can't tell you. So yeah. Also found out the meaning of life, but again, science reasons, can't tell you that either. Yeah, anyway, the sun is just coming over the horizon, so apparently that means I have solar power, even though it doesn't really look like I should. But, you know, there's light, there's power. Anyway, grabbing all the science, just everything I can, all the mystery goo, the materials page, just sending everything else back and then logging everything else. Trying to find the barometer under the water was kind of difficult, but I managed it, because I'm pretty great. Yeah, and not at all arrogant, and my alarm clock telling me not to forget about Morpheus 5, which I have left on the surface of Minmus, and in 7 hours it needs to be kind of pretty much leaving because it doesn't have a huge amount of life support. Anyway, I use that science to unlock 3.5 meter parts, so I need to see if I can land them, because obviously they need to be reusable because that's my whole thing in this series, reuse rockets, although I'm doing a shitty job of it. Pardon my French, but I kind of am. I've reused quite a few first stages actually. A few second stages. It's still very much in the testing phases. And I have made some decent SSTOs. So I'm working on it, but you know, it's Kerbal Space Program, it's difficult to do, and obviously I'm not going to get stressed about it because, well, that would be ridiculous. I would kind of take out the point of playing a game if you get all stressed about it. Unless it's Flappy Bird, then the point is to win. Not that you can win. Anyway, yeah, this hovers quite nicely, even with a full tank of fuel, because I am using the Space Launch System engines. Of course, the real space launch system is 8.4 meters in diameter and not 3.75 meters in diameter. Yeah, because 3.75 meters is just a fairly average rocket, like Falcon 9 sort of diameter, I believe, would be what these parts would be in the real world. But in the Kerbin world, where the planets are 10 times smaller, these are truly monumental rockets. Although now KW Rocketry, given that they're a stock 3.75 meter parts, they now have 5 meter parts, which may be featuring in a cinematic I'm thinking about doing. Talking of things on the channel, I've just had to turn off a bunch of mid-rolls, rather annoyingly. I was just looking back through one of my videos because someone commented and I clicked on the video. I noticed a bunch of mid-rolls, and apparently my network has just been kind of throwing them in there, which is fair enough. They've got to make money, and, you know, I think most of them aren't like big videos in the middle, which is fine. But I think most people kind of see mid-rolls and like, eh, and I don't really make money off this channel, so like a tiny bit. Yeah, but so there's not really any justification for mid rolls. So I will try to turn them off, but I don't think they're too annoying. But if you find them annoying, please tell me, because that'll make sure I turn them off in the future. But anyway, it's time to land this rocket. It's swaying around a bit, and luckily this is still in 24.2, or I would be in danger of destroying my launch pad. I think when I do eventually, if I eventually upgrade this to 0.25, um, I'm gonna have some kind of, if the launch pad is destroyed, have, I don't know if it's actually been implemented in the actual game, but some kind of cooldown time for repairing the launch pad. So because there's no money in obviously this, I'm not gonna upgrade it to career mode with money, because that would be rather ridiculous. Anyway, it's time to bring this down, as I've had a lot of fun flying with the Translatron as I fly most of my stages, because they're rather difficult to fly. And yeah, those landing legs actually are just the normal landing legs, and those hold out pretty well, but I'm thinking of making some kind of structure out of infernal robotics, just to see if it'll work. But yes, I will hopefully be flying more of this, well, probably not this rocket, but a rocket similar to this in the future, that will actually go to space. Well, big old blip there, because Sony Vegas, again, I'm using an old version of Sony Vegas, and it's just awful, and screws up my rendering sometimes, and then sometimes just stops in the middle of playing the video back, and screws up my commentary. But anyway, we are on Minmus with Bill, Luke, and Lobus Kerman. Bill and Luke obviously are fairly veterans of the space agency now, but they are training to go to Duna. There's going to be lots of that, because I am setting up my Duna base, starting this episode, with some of the initial planning. If you haven't guessed from the title, not sure what the title will be now, but I imagine it will involve the word Duna to entice people. Anyway, I need to get science from the poles with my Morpheus 5 spacecraft, because science is good, and I need more stuff. Yeah, so I've taken a bit of a guess and taken a crew report above the surface, so I do know that this is the poles, because I don't want to waste any more fuel. Anyway, after a bit of skipping along the surface, everything is fine. And I still have a ton of Delta V, so I could have wasted a bit more fuel. Yeah, this is indeed the poles, although I am speeding through this at 4 times time accelerate, because I have a lot to get in this episode, as per usual. And because I've done many a mission like this, so you should know what it looks like. This isn't even the first flight of the spacecraft. This is unmodified after the last flight to the moon. But yeah, so I've grabbed all the science out of these experiments, because some of them I do need to take the science out of before I can reuse them, because I don't want to transmit that science, because I'll lose a bunch of science. Anyway, so yeah, I'm just taking all the more science from here. I think this is Luke Kerman now, being a fool. And annoyingly, my RCS packs have started stopping working until I touch the ground again. It was really finicky. I'm having a few problems with the save right now. Not as bad as some stuff I've done in the past, like one of my real solar system saves, one of my my old real solar system series, which is pretty much impossible because of all the mods. It's just difficult, and that being SpaceX series I did, that was horrifying with all the mods. But this has held up pretty well for about 32 episodes. Hey, binary round number. Yeah, and the mods have been a bit finicky, Ferrum Aerospace in particular. Just some stuff, but it's still really playable, and it's survived multiple updates. I am surprised. I haven't updated it to 0.25 yet, because I'm too scared. But anyway, we must leave Minmus. I have no idea which way I'm burning, so I'm just messing around with all my excess Delta V, because, yeah. Wow, it was like a fade there. I must have cut something out. That was awesome. Yeah. Oh yeah, I cut out some of the planning I did, because I needed to know which way I was getting back. And I cut out some more planning without a fade. So, yeah, it's very inconsistent. But yeah, I needed to make sure I'd get back in time, because I only have about 4 days life support. But yeah, 3 days, 10 hours till I get back, so everything's good. I deleted a couple of alarms. Should only have deleted one, but they both look the same. So I deleted my reminder for the Daedalus probe, which is heading to Moho, to land on Moho. But it's fine, I'll remember that, surely. Probably not. Anyway, I'm bringing my periaps down inside the atmosphere, of course, to slow myself down so that I smash into the ground at... I should really develop something more like Dragon version 2, shouldn't I? Because I mean, when you see a spacecraft land on parachutes, it's kind of like a crash. That's how Elon Musk was talking about how his spacecraft was better than Boeing spacecraft, and it is. I think we can all agree that his thing that is reusable, lands on rockets with the precision of a helicopter, and looks awesome is better than the Boeing one. And he was saying about how they need like 100 square miles to land because they're on parachutes, and the landing looks like a crash. And Boeing got really angry. They were like, "No, we only need 20 square miles, and parachutes are good." And yeah, parachutes works fine. But when you think about bringing something back as high tech as a space capsule, don't you want a bit more than just some cloth? I know it's nylon, but still, you want engines, you want it to look awesome. And if you think of alien spaceship landing, it doesn't land on parachutes, and it certainly doesn't look like it's going to crash. It lands on engines. Anyway, I got 946.7 science out of that. I now have 1070 science, which isn't quite 1080, so I'm sure all the PS4 people will be angry because resolution. I'm so funny. Anyway, I'm gonna unlock some stuff with this. I was very happy with that. Now I have like 1,000 science. I don't really need ion drives yet. I'm thinking bigger solar panels would be helpful. RTGs could be, but I don't really need RTGs. More science, obviously, would be incredibly useful. But I think I might save that because I need some more service vehicles. Don't really need those, although a very powerful rocket KW engine would be nice. Don't really need that magnet. Don't need those cargo bays right now, and I don't really have the science. Yeah, those are some of the wider cargo bays, some of the some of the big B9 building parts for like really big spaceships. That could be cool. But I'm thinking 3.5 meter fairings and big cargo bays would be good, and big solar panels. Because I want to be building some really big cargo planes now, because I think that's a very good way of reusing your vehicles, having a properly reusable SSTO, kind of Skylon style. Anyway, with the Daedalus Mark II heading for Moho, I need to fine-tune this. Maneuver node system is a little bit finicky, so I'm just going to do it manually. I need to burn north to bring my my orbit up nearer to Moho, because you can see it's south of Moho, and because I am within, I think, half an orbit around the sun, I just burn north to do it. I've basically figured out the basics of doing it without a maneuver node, just in case I need to. It's a good thing to do. I have actually done some pretty serious maneuvering with just a Kerbal and their RCS pack, and if you know about that, there's no nav ball, and I had one reference frame. Well, I had two reference frames. I had the surface of the moon and my target, which was highlighted, and I managed to bring the Kerbal back, like, proper rendezvous from, like, I think it started off maybe 200 kilometers away, and just from two reference frames, and burning and looking at the map, obviously, I managed to bring my Kerbal back. I was very proud of that. Anyway, now a quick burn retrograde will bring me in closer to Moho, because this probe is destined to land on Moho, which is no easy task. Well, it's with a probe, it's fairly easy. I mean, I've got a pretty big fuel tank on this, for slowing down, because the probe's really small. That was just necessary, because I didn't want a really big transfer stage, and I think I did it pretty well. I obviously used a nuclear engine because that's just how you got to do it. But yeah, I think landing men on the surface, especially with stuff like tag life support, is just very difficult because just mass constraints. Anyway, on to something new and something awesome. This is basically my space launch system, and we have basically a lunar eclipse right there, or a solar eclipse? Anyway, I need to be controlling this from this MechJeb unit, because that is how this is designed, because I am launching the core for my Duna orbital base. This is, yeah, Duna orbital base kit core. This is the drive section and the core of the bit that will remain in orbit around Duna to be my space station. And it is launched aboard my new rocket. This is like the space launch system, basically. That's what it's based on. Those boosters have parachutes on them, so they would be like the shuttle boosters or the Ares boosters, and those will land on parachutes. And I'm getting a nice cinematic shot there. Obviously, in the game they will be deleted, but I thought, we can all agree that they would, land on the ocean, be dragged back by some kind of boat, and just outfitted. And I know landing a booster on the ocean isn't particularly good, but good enough for NASA, good enough for me. More boosters, more problems. But this is an analog of the Block 1 space launch system, which doesn't have an upper stage. Basically, the boosters are big enough, and the main stage is big enough that it just gets into orbit with the main stage. Obviously, the boosters drop off, or it would be an SSTO. But it's a pretty damn good rocket. Anyway, those drop away, and they do lose their parachute, so I will have to redesign that. But yeah, so this will go all the way to orbit, which means picking a landing site for the main stage will be very easy. And this is a 60-ton lifter, I think, with reusability. I kind of screw up the aiming there, but I bring it back in to alignment quite well. None of those words were the right words for what I was trying to describe, but you get the point. But yeah, basically, if this stays in orbit, then I'll be able to pick out my landing site much more easily than with a normal rocket like that has 2 stages. So I'm thinking this might be the future for rockets. Although to get a really heavy one, I'll need an upper stage, which brings me back to the old thing. But it'll probably work out. Anyway, you can see on top I've launched this spacecraft kind of backwards because well, it was easier than mounting it on the engines, and there are some extremities on the spacecraft which would have poked out of the fairings, so it was kind of necessary. But yeah, this is the core for taking most of the crew to Duna and being the orbital station. It has a lot of things to be added to it. Actually, a few things to be added to it. I think I can, with this launch vehicle, just nail it in one launch. Probably another launch, just a big package. This doesn't have any crew on board right now, but it has life support, but no batteries and no power generation. So, yeah. You can see these things on the side. These are controlled by Infernal Robotics, which I've had installed for a while. I've just never used on the series. But yeah, those will fold out, and things will be connected to them. So it looks like a fairly coherent spacecraft, and they'll all be strutted together. But yes, this will be one of the 3 vessels headed out to Duna. This will be the orbital vessel. There'll also be a ground vessel and a military vessel. I think this is the first spacecraft I've built that uses 2.5 meter docking ports because, well, the last interplanetary spaceship I built was the Kepler spacecraft in orbit of Eve, and I didn't have 2.5 meter docking ports then. So yeah, I have made fairly slow progress with science, but I've only done like 32 episodes. But yeah, I think it's really kicking off with the science now. And this is more of a marathon than a sprint. And in fairness, I was worried for a while that it was going to die off and I never would have really got anywhere in terms of this series. But the last 5 or so episodes have been doing like way better than I thought they would, and just way better than the series has picked up quite a bit recently, and I'm really happy about that. So thanks for watching. It does make this far more worthwhile. Wow, these frame rates look terrible to me. They were way better when I was playing it, and I'm hoping they're going to be better in render. Maybe it's just Sony Vegas, because Sony Vegas is a bastard. But no, it is time to deorbit, of course. I need to put my periaps around 30 kilometers, just because that's my standard re-entry. Yeah, so I have enough delta V to land there, 732. This doesn't have any landing legs or really any landing structure. This is just kind of a proof of concept. However, I'm going to preface this by just straight up saying that there is a Ferrum Aerospace glitch. I don't think that's actually what causes the main failure in this. Basically, this re-entry fails. This is just the first testing just to see if it can re-enter. And because it's being controlled by a side-mounted mech jib unit, that's going to burn off. So I will need to figure out a better way of bringing this back, because I think this is going to be my workhorse launch vehicle from now on. I'm thinking of maybe scrapping the Triton 2, because that had a lot of problems, and if I have a 60-ton lifter, I don't necessarily need a 30-ton lifter, and if it's reusable, it's economical. I might keep the Triton 1, because I know that to be a functional, working vehicle, but this will probably become my workhorse launch vehicle from now on. So, yeah, I want it to, work, and this is just obviously the first test, but yeah, the mech jib unit does burn off, and that's what was controlling it, so this does fall to the surface, and now we have no idea about speed, but Ferrum Aerospace, I believe it's Ferrum Aerospace, has some kind of weird glitch a lot of the time where it just doesn't slow down properly in the atmosphere. I've tried updating it, but I think it's just kind of a bit broken with this, and I did go back and look at this with a quick load, and it did indeed hit the surface about about a kilometer per second, so that's pretty ridiculous. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this. This has been KSP with Tape. I will see you next time.